13. Accreditation. Hebrews 7, 1-6. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace, without father, without mother, without descendant, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the 10th of the spoils. And verily, they that are the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priesthood, have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law, that is, of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham. But he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham, and blessed him that had the promises. Hebrews 7, 1-6. Hebrews very early insists on declaring Jesus Christ to be our great and eternal high priest, and this statement at once raised questions in the minds of all Hebrews within the church. What were Jesus' credentials for that office? We can understand their mindset if we think in terms of our own times. Anyone claiming to be a valid healer or a valid scholar will at once be asked to produce his credentials and his membership in certain organizations. It is unrealistic to assume that people were then less suspicious about any unusual claims. The office of high priest was most powerful in Judea, and for any man to declare himself the valid office holder without the mandatory credentials was normally unthinkable. For Jesus to be declared high priest required thus the joint statement of an apostolic fellowship. First, the fellowship reminds the Hebrews that Melchizedek was such a high priest, and also at the same time king of Salem, later known as Jerusalem. Second, Abraham was blessed by this Melchizedek, which means that Melchizedek was the greater man before God than was Abraham, verse 7. Third, this high priest Melchizedek was the king of righteousness or justice and king of peace, verse 2. Fourth, we are told that Melchizedek was, quote, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually, verse 3. In more modern speech, this could be rendered thus. Melchizedek lacked any genealogical or hereditary right to his office. Neither on his father's nor his mother's side did Melchizedek inherit his office. Neither did it begin at a particular time, nor did it end with his death. He was forever a priest. Now the expression, quote, without father, without mother, without descent, end quote, was not necessarily a complimentary one. A man converting to Judaism was for centuries, according to the rabbis, a man without a father because he had no prior heritage in Jerusalem. Now the Hebrew reader faced a strange contradiction. To have no inherited right to the office made a man ineligible or at least a questionable claimant. However, there was the strange witness of Genesis 14:13-24 and Psalm 110, both of which greatly exalted Melchizedek. Various odd interpretations were used to get around Melchizedek. He was supposedly Shem under another name, but God set aside this priesthood with Aaron's. Now, to link Jesus to Melchizedek was a startling and major interpretation, one looking forward rather than backward. The incontestable fact was that Abraham had paid a, quote, 10th of the spoils, end quote, to Melchizedek, verse 4. This meant that Abraham recognized Melchizedek's priesthood as a valid one, coming from the covenant God. In Abraham's person, the Levitical priesthood acknowledged the priority of Melchizedek and his office, verses 5 and 6. Melchizedek received tithes, and he gave a blessing. He was thus superior to Abraham and to the Levitical priesthood. In these few verses, Hebrews undermines the Jewish view of the high priest using the words of the Old Testament. Moreover, the perspective was shifted from the past to the present and future. Implicit also was another very important consideration. How old the view is of Melchizedek as Shem, we cannot say. Many interpretations of Judaism were subjected to revision to blunt the force of the early church's use of the Hebrew scriptures. If the plain text stands, Melchizedek was a priest-king of Salem, totally outside the Hebrew heritage. Had he been a relative, had he been Shem, major attention would have been called to that fact. Melchizedek, as a foreigner, an alien, and a Canaanite, is a remarkable fact, and it points to the universality of the faith. The covenant God does not limit himself to one people. In Amos 9:7, God tells Israel that to him they are no different than the Ethiopians, whom, if he chose, he could bring forward as his chosen people. Men are concerned with humanistic forms of accreditation, and, within reason, they sometimes have their place, but this does not give God's imprimatur. The old high priesthood was now forever dead. With Christ's crucifixion, there was no longer a possibility of atonement by the blood of animals. The old priesthood of Aaron, at its best, was never the king of justice nor of peace. Its function ended with Christ's atonement. The new high priest, Jesus Christ, gives access to heaven, to the throne of grace, because he sits and reigns there. His accreditation is that, as the eternal Son of God, he is the source of all authority and power. He is the great prophet, the Son of God, and the King over all creation. The totality of his work and office included the priesthood. Jesus Christ cannot be understood as other than priest, king, and prophet. As for accreditation, he is the source of all validity and authority. His royal and prophetic offices required that he be also our high priest. His central work for our redemption, atonement, required that he be our high priest as well. It is important to note that Melchizedek was king of righteousness or justice, and therefore king of peace. Without justice, there can be no true peace.